Well done. Well done. This is how you win a trilogy. This is probably the best MCU trilogy since Captain America. The stakes for this movie are incredibly high. The characters all get satisfying arcs, and they all work extremely well off each other. And unlike a lot of the MCU sequels that forgot what the previous film set up and don't follow through with, for example, Barry Mordo being set up as the villain in Doctor Strange, then them not even using him at all in Doctor Strange 2, everything set up in the previous films comes back and feels important. And what's interesting is that the first film was very much an ensemble without one specific main character, and the second film, the focus was definitely more on Star-Lord. In this film, the main focus is on Rocket. The stakes of the plot revolve around Rocket. And unlike Black Panther Wakanda Forever, where characters like Riri Williams felt more like plot devices rather than actual characters, Rocket is an actual character in this film, not a MacGuffin. The way each character's arc ends is incredibly satisfying, and it harked back a lot to like earlier Pixar films, where the characters don't necessarily get what they originally wanted, but what they do get is perhaps much better. And I cried several times throughout this film. Out of the 3 Guardians of the Galaxy films, this is definitely the one with the most heart. And I would say it's almost perfect. However, there are 1 or 2 things that hold it back. They're not big issues, but they're still issues. Now, a pattern I'm noticing with these films, MCU films and the Guardians films especially, is sometimes they are afraid to show too much negative emotion. There are some very dark moments in this film, and sometimes instead of letting the audience feel the weight, they try to lighten things up with jokes that can feel a bit ill-timed at times. I know that you want to lighten the tension, but sometimes it's more effective to let the audience feel something else. It's okay to make the audience cry. It's okay to make them feel uncertain about characters' fates. That's how you keep the audience engaged. Another element that holds it back a bit is something that bogs down a lot of these new MCU projects. They expect you to have watched everything with these characters. So if you go into this movie not having watched the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special on Disney+, you're going to be a little bit confused by the beginning. Because there's certain characters and plotlines from that special that come back and are important. But if you haven't watched it, or if you haven't watched it recently, and let's be honest, who's going to watch a Christmas special in the month of May, you're going to be a bit confused. I was playing Catch My Eye going, oh yeah, that's a reference to this plotline set up in the special, wasn't it? I watched that 6 months ago. Whoops, I forgot. They probably should have at least done a recap montage before the movie, or given better context of other ways instead of just jumping right in. But these are relatively childish nitpicks. The fact is, this is the first MCU film since Endgame where I felt strong emotion. Maybe with Thor Love and Thunder just a smidge because of what they do with Thor and Jane in that film, but I certainly didn't feel anything with that film as strongly as I did with this. Also, apart from needing to watch the holiday special, like I said, this is a film that, for the most part, feels very focused on its own narrative. It isn't trying to set up the next 10 MCU movies and shows. It feels like it stands as its own story. What they do with certain characters imply that they could bring them back if they want to in the future, but it doesn't necessarily feel like it's a priority. This feels like a movie made by a filmmaker and not by a studio trying to figure out how to keep writing a cash cow. This doesn't feel like a film where they needed to find a compromise. Okay, you can make your movie, but make sure you also set up this character and this plotline, because we have this show planned for Disney Plus in 3 years. It doesn't feel like that. It feels like a movie that was made the way that James Gunn wanted to make it, and not trying to work around 10,000 studio notes from Kevin Feige. If you love these films, if you love these characters, you're going to laugh, you're definitely going to cry, you're going to have a movie experience that's, if you'll pardon the pun, out of this world. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 for me gets an A-, 9 out of 10, and 4 out of 5 stars.